So Warcraft Direct, what is it? Where can you watch it? Why should you watch it? And what do I think's going to be announced? Now, Warcraft Direct has just actually had an announcement day, and if you're not aware of what it is, it's basically a bit of a poor version of a replacement for BlizzCon, because it is coming in November, and it's November the 13th, and you're going to be able to watch it on Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. Firstly, it kicks off at 10 AM PST. I'll put all the time zones on screen so you can have a look. They're using it as a celebration for the 30th anniversary, but as we know, there's going to be no BlizzCon 2024, so this is definitely going to be the platform where we get the vast majority of the big announcements. Now, going all the way back to the original BlizzCon that was in October, then eventually they kind of settled with November, it's always the place where big announcements like Season of Discovery or future expansions or anything like that obviously get announced. Now, if we do get a BlizzCon in 2025, then that, of course, should be around November time. So we're basically going to have a full year where there isn't a scheduled platform for big announcements. So we should really expect those big announcements next month. Now, I already put a video out talking about the fact that Warcraft Direct is more than likely going to be the place where they announce Mr. Pandaria Classic, but I want to have a look at all versions of Warcraft and have a little guess on what I think is going to get announced and why. So firstly, Classic Era has been around for ages now and probably deserves a fresh. Alongside this, we're pretty much certainly going to get a fresh Hardcore Classic as well, because Classic Hardcore launched on the 24th of August 2023, so it's over a year now since that happened, and it did actually launch with all content available. So this is kind of definitely due a reset. Whether they was to launch a fresh Era server and Classic Hardcore server at the same time, I don't know. I kind of feel like they could be spaced out, but at the same time, there's probably two very different styles of play there, so they could launch them together. But I definitely see both of those things happening. Moving on to Season of Discovery. Season of Discovery launched on the 30th of November 2023. By the time this event happens, it's coming up to 1 year since launch. Now, on the basis, again, we kind of need to know what's going to happen in the next 12 months, because the next big future announcements you would imagine would be at BlizzCon 2025. So when we're looking at what we think is going to happen, we've got to take the next 12 months at least, really the next 12 to 18 months at least, into account. And for Season of Discovery, with it already being out a year and it being a seasonal server, and the AQ patch with the war effort and all that has been data mined, or it's at least been seen that it's being sort of worked on in the background, you'd be kind of expecting a couple of months of that, a couple of months of Nax, and pretty much that's it. Even if Nax was to last a couple of months, because I suppose essentially once you've cleared Nax, you've kind of completed Season of Discovery. So there's got to be a big announcement around it and what the future holds. Me personally, I'm torn between two things here, what I think is going to get announced at Warcraft Direct. You let me know in the comments which one you think's more likely, or if you think neither of them are going to be announced. Firstly, new content. Blizzard have really shown an interest in creating new content or redesigning old content for Season of Discovery. So the one that I see being the most likely is the fact that life after Naxxramas is actually going to be a thing with a brand new raid. I think rather than working on a full seasonal server right at this moment in time, I think actually just extending Season of Discovery's lifespan by adding an extra phase and seeing if that draws lots of people back. Using myself as an example, with a brand new raid in Season of Discovery never seen before, would that be enough to make me want to go and play it? Very possibly. Would that be enough to make other people want to go and play it? I can't answer for those, but I do think that there would be a lot more calling for people to go back after Nax to test or play a completely new raid, especially when then, if that raid goes well, do they just continue on for months or maybe even a couple of years? Like, who knows? So I think an extra content phase that we've never seen before in Season of Discovery is probably the most likely thing to get announced. And I think slightly less likely, but knowing Blizzard, they could quite easily surprise us, would actually be that they've already been working on a new seasonal server. So they may already know what the next season's going to be. We had Season of Mastery, then Season of Discovery. Could they have a new seasonal server that maybe doesn't necessarily sit in vanilla? It might be a seasonal server that sits in TBC, or a seasonal server that sits in Wrath, but it's not actually Season of Discovery with runes and everything. I would kind of say that's the less likely out of the two, if I'm honest, but who knows, with Blizzard, they could surprise us. There's been a lot of talk from myself as well, and I've got a video coming out about this very soon, about a really accelerated cadence, sort of 12-month cycle server, let's say, of vanilla through to Wrath, with lots of quality of life changes, lots of sped up leveling experience, like all that sort of thing that we've sort of come to expect from seasonal servers. Could they do something like that? Because I know a lot of us have spoke about something almost exactly like that. And it's been successful even on private servers, so we know it works. What would be interesting if they did something like this is if they actually reused some of the Season of Discovery content so it didn't go to waste. Things like Gnomeregan, Black Fathom Deeps, Sunken Temple, and actually had them in their new form, even if it was just scaled down and tuned for 5-man, so it was like new versions of the 5-man dungeons, or they actually stayed as raids but was tuned up to level 60 instead. Something like that. It'd be cool for all the effort and stuff that they've put into Season of Discovery to not go to waste should they do a new seasonal server, even if it was a vanilla to Wrath seasonal server. Do we need to talk about Classic, as in where we are at Cataclysm Classic at the moment? We know Firelands comes out in just over a week. We're going to have, let's say, 4 months in there, and then we're going to have a few months of Dragon Soul, which that's only going to take us to, you know, middle of next year, like absolute latest. So of course before November we're going to need something new, unless Blizzard want to torture us and keep us in Dragon Soul for a year and call it the real Cataclysm authentic experience. But hopefully they don't. I don't see it any other way. I'm pretty sure MOP Classic will be announced at Warcraft Direct. If it's not, I'd kind of understand at the same time, because I don't think MOP Classic needs a big sort of platform to be announced on, if I'm completely honest, because we kind of already know once we get to the end of Dragon Soul, what's next? It's going to be MOP. So if they're going to continue on with Classic and keep milking that cash cow, of course we're going to get MOP Classic. But at the same time, I think they will make a bit more of a song and dance about MOP, because I think it is genuinely remembered in a much more fond light across the entire audience that's ever played World of Warcraft as the better expansion, possibly the best expansion. For me, best expansion on par with Wrath of the Lich King for sure. Now, I'm just hoping they don't go into too much detail when it comes to MOP, because I don't want to make in loads of promises like they did about Cataclysm, and not one of them has actually come to fruition yet. And I know the Inferno dungeons are about to come to fruition, which was their Heroic Plus that they announced at BlizzCon last year, but it's coming to fruition in a very poor state, in my opinion. They said we was getting a streamlined auction house. That's not happened. They said that it was going to be an accelerated cadence. They're already slowing it down. It's like, please don't come onto the stage or onto this stream and talk about MOP Classic and make these big promises and then don't deliver like you did with Cata. I'd rather you say we're going to give you the MOP experience like it was back in the day, launch it and leave it alone. Like, I would feel a lot better about that. Again, let me know in the comments what you think. MOP's kind of my baby. I don't want them to mess around with it. Retail. So again, I think retail's kind of an obvious one. Most people think it's going to be 11.1 that's announced. So for those that don't just understand numbers, because maybe you don't play retail, we're in 11.0.5 at the moment, which is like the halfway patch. It's the anniversary event at the moment with BRD and loads of cosmetics that you can get and stuff. But it's not a major raid, like a new tier of raid or anything like that. 11.1 being announced kind of makes sense, but that's not going to take us all the way until November next year, is it? So I kind of think we might get a sneak peek at what's the next expansion in terms of in the World Soul Saga. Chris Metzen did say at BlizzCon that the World Soul Saga will be wrapped up quicker than a normal sort of set of 3 expansions, if you like. So well over a year by the time BlizzCon's out next year, as in it launched in August, so it's going to be 14, 15 months, whatever, by the time we get to the next BlizzCon. So if there's no major platform to announce anything before then, it's probably cutting it a bit fine to announce a new expansion then. So I reckon we might get a little sneak peek at what's in store for the second chapter of the World Soul Saga. I do also think, though, alongside that, and probably where the biggest emphasis will be, is what is 11.1 going to be? What is the raid going to be? What's the theme of it? Where are we going? What are we doing? You know, I think that's where the majority of the emphasis will lie, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of a sneak peek on what their plans are, at least, even these early stages of the plans for the next chapter of the World Soul Saga. And I would say they're my predictions on what I think is going to happen. So you'll be able to watch it November the 13th to see how wrong or right I was and quickly rush back here and tell me it was all wrong. And you'll be able to watch it on Twitch, YouTube and TikTok. It's definitely worth tuning into because apparently you're going to get rewards as well. And I quote, "You'll also be able to earn new in-game viewership rewards for Hearthstone, Warcraft Rumble and World of Warcraft. We'll have more details for you soon, so be sure to check back on our official sites." Now, I've only spoke about World of Warcraft. There probably is going to be something for Warcraft 3 because recently there was like a patch 2 point something that was found or some form of evidence that they're working on that, but I know nothing about Warcraft 3. I don't play that, of course, and Hearthstone and Warcraft Rumble, again, I don't play either of those, so I'm not going to sit and try and hazard a guess at what's going to happen with them when, quite honestly, I'm not interested in them, and I would imagine the majority of the people that watch the videos that I put out, at least, they're just interested in World of Warcraft. But if you enjoyed the video, then like, subscribe and all that stuff. And if you've stayed all the way to the end and wondered why I'm sat in the car, I've not been kicked out by the wife. I'm actually sat outside a place called Jump Warriors, which is like a big like trampoline place where currently the kids are in there with the missus jumping up and down. Cars making noises. So if you enjoyed the video, again, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.